hog-tied on the fucking dock with a hanging out of her skirt, and I'm sitting there looking at dude, I'm like, my dad had this old army raft that we would freaking drag everywhere. As a little kid, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but freaking little. I put that thing, it was like a 4-man raft with the flimsy bottom in it. I mean, just army surplus. Holes in the bottom. I always had to fix it like all the time. Like every time you're gonna go, you gotta fix it before you go, and then fix it again. Sometimes fix it while you're out there. So this thing, like, it was just whatever. And we were rafting the Sandy River in kind of a lame time of the year. The Sandy River can be really crazy. I've never done it when it's really crazy, but it can also be like just, you know, kind of like a kick it, drink it river, drinking river, whatever. Well, my dad, my stepmom, my little brother and I, we all went. And, you know, part of the way you got to drag the raft through the rocks because the water's just not deep enough. So you just kind of got to drag it through points. Well, at one point, my little brother fell out and underneath the raft. And I literally freaking reached underneath there and just pulled him out of the water and up onto the raft. And just all by myself. And this amazed my dad. That's probably why I remember that rafting trip. A lot of the times rafting with my dad would be like on lakes. We'd hike into lakes and go rafting, fishing, this type of stuff. Then, so there's this place down in Central Oregon that was like a kind of pseudo family vacation spot, on and off. It's like called like the area is like Bend, Oregon, but it's like a little resort area that's kind of off to that summertime something. I don't know. Just one of these resort areas. And we'd go there. And there's the Chutes River's not too far from there. So on 2 different occasions, I think once with this guy, like one time we went there with this boyfriend of my mom's, and he was a pilot, and he literally flew us all, my mom, my brother, and myself, down to Sun River, that's the name of it, to Sun River for a vacation. And out of all my mom's well, like I said, there was only that guy and then the guy she married, my stepdad. But I liked the other guy a lot better. I mean, he was cool. He was a pilot. But the stepdad, he had sailboats, so, you know, that's cool too. So I think on that vacation, we went on the rafting little adventure. And what I remember about it is it's pretty freaking gnarly rapids, and it's just like a bunch of amateurs, and they just teach you, like, you know, stick your foot here, hold on to the paddle, you know, paddle when we yell, paddle this way, paddle that way, you know. And at one point you actually have to take the raft out of the water and hike, carrying the raft around some rapids that are so crazy they'll kill you or something like this. You know, it's so dangerous that it's just not even worth it. Yeah, so I did that run with the boyfriend and then the stepdad, probably before he was a stepdad. I remember my stepdad turned into a stepdad just like one day they were like, oh, hey, we're married now. And then you'd see the pictures, and then they had like this huge party in Eastern Oregon, and this huge elaborate thing, and it was a whole big deal. And me and my little brother didn't go. So I guess that would have been too awkward. Hey, look at the baggage. Whitewater rafting. So we got a couple times with my dad. You know, I think we even did the Clackamas. Yeah, the lower Clackamas. We did that with my dad. It was just kind of mellow. My little brother, I actually remember going with us one time on that. I might have even done the upper Clackamas with my dad, just not in super crazy water. I mean, it can be just insane, or it can be just, you know, pretty all right. And insane, like not insane enough to kill you. Then, I mean, if I told my whole life story, but I'm trying not to get out of order too much here. But I have a lot more rafting. But basically, as a kid, like some times with the dad on the Clackamas, the Sandy, then with the boyfriends up there in the Deschutes, which is like super fancy, and then with the employer. So this is a story of Mastercraft of Milwaukee in the 80s, and this would turn out to be the first time that my name would end up with the FBI. So there's this water ski team that's been around. Well, I don't know if they're still around. I'm sure they are, but there was, maybe not, I don't know. There was a water ski team called the Portland Water Ski Spectacular, and it would put on stunt shows of water skiing, like pyramids and slalom skiers and you know, acrobat people and barefoot people. You know, there was a whole team. So, and you know, so you had the team people, but then you had the people that owned the boats, because it was a very particular boat back then, style of boat, competition water ski boat, that had the big motors that could pull all these skiers, that could do all this low wakes and all this kind of stuff. Well, there was a dealership right on the Willamette that was, it just always seemed out of place, right? I mean, these really, really fancy, I mean, the building that this place was in was a Toro lawnmower shop, and then Mastercraft, like somebody bought like a, you know, a franchise and put it in this shop that was right at this Milwaukee boat ramp, right? Well, that whole complex isn't even there anymore. I mean, that whole traffic pattern through there has changed. I mean, it's like, it's just been erased from memory. These people that would have these boats, you know, most of them didn't really have the look of like legitimacy. And like, I had been on the river for years at that point, and watching I mean, me and my little brother, when there was like a Mastercraft, a Ski Nautique, a Ski Centurion, and I think it was those only, it was almost like, oh, look at airplanes or tugboats, you know? I mean, they were so rare. And we'd see these boats, it was like, oh, cool, look at them, you know? They were rare. And then this Mastercraft dealership popped in, and then it just started, you know, there was this Mastercraft there, and these were not cheap boats. I mean, this is the 80s, and these things were $20,000, $25,000, $50,000, $30,000. I mean, people were just doing all kinds of crazy stuff to him. It's the 80s. It's the height of the drug war. It's the height of just say no. And here's this ski boat dealership that all of a sudden has freaking just some very odd looking guys driving these baller boats. And so like one of the main dealers of the place just started hanging out with Dude. We'll just call him Dude. This 30-year-old guy that I used to hang out with like he was my older brother or something. And this guy was like a pretty cool dude compared to the slime balls that Dude normally hung out with. So Dude started like really getting into this boat thing because it like, you know, upped his social status immensely. The fact that he was in this Mastercraft club, right? And they got one, a normal, what you think of, and then he got this other one that was called a Maristar. And this boat had he called it the stabbing cabin. So it had like a little sleeper down underneath, and he had like the insanest stereo put in there, like just crazy. So, and I was always like the little hanging out guy, like I like making drinks, loading weed pipes, making food, handling the boat, driving the boat, you know, docking the boat. Like I was the guy. I wasn't really a big drinker like all the older dudes were like pro drinkers, so they'd get themselves up, but they could rely on me to and this really got crazy with the people relying on me once I got my driver's license, because then I was shuttling these rich drunk people in their fancy ass cars home, basically get in the car and drive. And I think some of them were sickos, but you know, I was a big kid. Nobody ever really around. If they did, they would have met my pocket knife. So I was like, you know, also all those things I was saying, but I was also like the person that provided the music, right? So I would, you know, find the most rude and crude and whatever music, and like, so I had all these guys listening to like Two Live Crew and Ice-T and, Ice-T. He had this insane radio and this really cool boat, and then he would play with this teenager would come up with, say, hey, play this. And so one day in particular, they had some kind of drag boats that were dragging up and down the Willamette. I mean, it was the only one in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it was a $50,000 ski boat. Nobody had money like this. But dudes like Buddy had all the money in the world. It's one of those rich inherited deals, right? So he like had all kinds of money and just never had to work. Traveled all over the world with his mom. I never met his mom. He was almost like a little English chap. I always wonder what happened to him. He must have died. He was such an alcoholic. And he had that huge alcoholic belly thing. So he was the one that had all his money, and he bought this boat. This boat was like, you know, friggin' a big deal. And so there was these races. There was like this big tour of these big race boats. Those crazy race boats like Miss Budweiser. So this Mastercraft got to be the the line, they gotta hold the line judges. You gotta have the line judges out on like one corner, right? Well, they had the whole waterfront, and if you know Portland, it's got a waterfront with the seawall and the river's right there. Well, they had bleachers so people could watch the races. And old dude gets Dirty. I should just call him Dirty. Yeah, Dirty. It's not. It was his nickname. Nickname is whatever. So Dirty. Dirty was the dude. Dirty. Dirty gets drunk and freaking cranks 2 Live Crew. Right? And this is what we're talking like. I mean, 2 Live Crew. I mean, all I should have to say, I shouldn't really have to. If you don't know what 2 Live Crew is, then you should go back and look them up so you can understand what I'm saying. Basically, just like they were cutting edge on the First Amendment. The boats are loud. They're just like, meow, meow, meow. Well, they're super loud, and then they're out back on the other side. Then they're not. You can't hear them. Dude gets drunk, cranks up one of these, like, probably like S&M, like, psh, psh, starts off with ass slapping, and then like, I don't know, me so horny or some shit, right? Crazy sex talk. Everything they say is a Me Too statement in itself. A whole nother Me Too crime or whatever, Me Too offense. The boats whiz by, the music goes up, and then the boats go by, and then the faces of all the people and the kids and the parents and the covering of the ears and the and then you look and the whole boat is just partying. I mean, they are just freaking dancing, partying. Line judge is drunk, everybody's drunk, nobody's paying a bit of attention to anything but the moment. The number of these boats started to just get to be insane, right? And then the types of people that had them, right? And when I say types of people, I'm like people you'd look at and you'd be like, because see, I grew up on the river. I looked at the people, the type of people that own these boats forever. So all of a sudden you had like this completely different group of people owning these boats. And mainly it was like people who really just didn't know about boats. I mean, I could tell, you know, the way they dressed. And then the parties started to get just epically crazy. Now, you know, I'm pretty young at this time, so it was like all this. And I think like this was the span of this went from the time the span of Mastercraft went from, and I'm just going to tell the whole story right now, went from the time I was 15 until the time I was about 2021. And they might have been open or whatever before that, but so it was about this amount of time. Well, so I was at these parties, and you know, I would start to see like freaking like a dude that would just be sitting in the corner with a vial, and he would just be selling lines of blow. And right around this time, Dirty got this new buddy around, and this guy was a slime ball, but he was a slime ball with a little more social standing than all the other slime balls that Dirty used to hang out with. So all the Dirty slime balls before Mastercraft were like, I don't know, if you needed like a stereotypical image, think of like white trash trailer park people, right? Then after Mastercraft, think of like yuppie cokeheads, right? Neon, fanny packs, deck shoes, alligator deck shoes, or lizard deck shoes, just not any deck shoes. And yeah, that was the kind of the mode there. And Dirty hooked up with one of these little water skiing chicks that was just bat nuts. And they actually had a kid together. And yeah, poor kid. Daddy's a mechanic, and mommy, I think she was like, I don't know what she was when he met her. She was on the water ski team, but I don't know what she did for a living. But years later, I saw her. She was a stripper, but she was already like, I mean, yeah. Anyway, I don't need to bash her, other than she was back in nuts. I mean, I saw this girl drug out by cops one night. Like, this is how f***ed up it was. They told me that if I didn't keep her under control, that they were going to call the cops on her and have her arrested. So now I'm wrestling with this chick, like trying to just keep her like from going to jail. And the sales dude from Mastercraft walks in the living room and was like, "What's going on, dude?" And I'm like, they told me to make blah blah blah, you know, and she's gonna go to jail. And he's all, "Well, you can't just," and I'm like, "Okay." And I let her go, and she went and did the, they called the cops on her, and the cops had her hog-tied on the dock with hanging out of her skirt. And I'm sitting there looking at dude, I'm like, I think this is your fault.